All right. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the CRE Pro Show. As always, we're brought to you by CRE Pro Course. Jump in the course if you're looking to pursue a career in commercial real estate. But if you're looking for a way to win in life, I have a fantastic guest for us here today. I'm going to briefly introduce him, and then I'm going to have him introduce himself. But let me tell you, this man who is on the other side of the planet right now, he is in the middle of the night. So we're going to give him a good old good day, mate, when he jumps on screen here. He's coming to us live from Sydney. His name is Stephen DeSadie. Let's just bring him on in here. Welcome to the show. What's up, Stephen?
How you doing?
Very well. Good to see you, mate. Top of the morning. Yeah.
G'day.
Very early.
G'day. There you go. Yeah, it's early.
So
but we're all good. How you doing, buddy?
Fantastic crew here supporting us. My business partner, Dan Lukowitz, with CRE Pro. We both lean on and really focus on trying to grow and invest in yourself and invest in your community. And one of the ways that we do that is by working with business consultants who help us with our business, help us work through those startup stages. And Stephen is that guy for us. So I'd like to ask you, Stephen, for those of our viewers who don't yet know you, who is Stephen DeSadie?
Oh, who is Stephen? Stephen, I've talked to myself in the third person. Stephen's a guy that's actually spent about 25 years cruising around the world. And his life is full of choices, and those choices result in consequences. So all of the choices through all the different things I've done around the world have put me in a position of being able to have an abundant level of experience, both professionally and also personally. So everything from building businesses in the UK to working in the US, all the way down to going bankrupt and suicide and coming back to Australia and having to start all over again. So who's Stephen DeSadie? I'm someone who's passionate about enabling people's EQ and IQ based on every single choice and consequence that I've had in my life, from multi-million-dollar success all the way down to suicidal bankruptcy. So I enable people. And if you come near me, I'm going to impact the way you breathe, because my passion is your highest potential. I'm addicted to people.
I can personally tell you that that is a very good description of you, Stephen. And I say that genuinely because I know that Dan and I have both benefited from being in this tractor beam that you're talking about, where, you know, being close to somebody who is not only motivational, but is actually very talented at displaying and elaborating on the things that they pick up that maybe not everybody else does. One of the things I'd love to talk about, and I'm very impressed with you about, is your Instagram, the drawings that you do, and the visualization. And I think that's very important to be a visual person myself. Can you walk us through a little bit about what you do on Instagram, and then how that is helping others visually, maybe as you do your whiteboard videos?
Yeah, one of the things that I did, and first message to everyone that's watching, number one, what are you good at? And number two, what do you enjoy either doing or experiencing? And what are other people doing, and what at scale? So, for example, there's a lot of this unpacking of things with vertical cameras and unpacking iPads and the new phones or whatever it may be. So I did some work with some people in Miami, and at the end of a particular period, without going into all the details, had some pretty huge success, but then had some pretty difficult personal circumstances. Divorce that destroyed the person, completely lost their mojo. Anyway, did some work with me, called me up, and one of the things he went to Vegas. A friend of his said, "Hey, buddy, you've got your mojo back." I'm trying to avoid putting names to this. "Hey, buddy, you've got your mojo back. What happened?" And he said, "I did some work with a guy in Sydney." He said, "What does he do?" He said, "I can't explain it. You just have to experience it." So he rang me up and he said, "Steve, get your phone and get people to ask you questions on the spot, and just hold your phone and do it like that." And I thought, so first point, everyone, what's actually not so much going viral, but what are people really engaged with? And the whole concept of using vertical cameras on a whiteboard, getting people to come and ask me questions live, is what Inspiring Insights is all about. The other thing we did is I got my team to go through the last 6 months of comments on all of my social profiles, and the 3 girls were asked, pick out your top 10 one words that describe what people's experience with me, and then put them together into 30, and then the girl who runs everything get it down to 3. And the 3 words were inspiring, insightful, and wisdom. So the show's called Inspiring Insights. So my second message to everyone is observe what people are doing, observe what you like doing, and observe what people's reaction to the experience of what you do is. In my case, I can't explain what it's like to be with Steve. You have to experience it. So we created a show called Inspiring Insights. People from around the world ring me up. I have no idea who they are, and they ask me questions on the spot. And then I use a vertical camera and I just draw out models to give them ideas on taking their journey from EQ to IQ and unlocking their life.
So, and I can tell you from my experience with you, and one of the things that I love that you do, and maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on this, is
Sure.
I call you Mr. Triangle. When I don't mention who you are, you come as a reference from a previous guest of our show, Rachel Beck. Shout out Rachel Beck. I'll put her contact in the show notes, and then a link to the episode. And I think you may have been referenced in that episode. But one of the things that I really find compelling about you is that Mr. Triangle theory is that you sort of separate or dissect everything into like a 3-peg or 3-leg stool. Is that intentionally, or is that just the way that you and I have worked together in the past?
No, intentionally. Inside the BU Academy, there's 16 classes. There's about 37 hours of training in there. There's around 350, 360 videos. Every video comes with a podcast, a transcript, and a guide sheet. So it's very, very comprehensive. The human brain is very visual. So everything I do is based around models, because you talk about triangles and there's kind of every single type of image and diagram that I have. So one of the things that I do, and the one that I talked to you a little bit about, was the triangles and stuff, but every single thing I do is based around models, because a model is a picture. So if I'm speaking and there's 4 different categories of people and 4 different ways their brains process, but if I'm speaking to a particular generic audience and I don't know who they are, so if it's a group of accountants, I'll know how to speak to them. If it's a group of very creative production people, I'll know how to talk to them. But if it's an audience online and I don't know who I'm talking to, one thing I do know, everyone can interpret an image, and they'll interpret that image in metaphors, in case studies, in models and stories. So if I sit and I just talk at people, a lot of people will switch off. If I talk about very model and case study, logically detailed content, all the creative storytellers will switch off. If I talk in the abundance of all of the sort of mindfulness and meaningfulness stuff, a lot of people will switch off. I create an image, and whilst I'm talking down in the bottom left-hand, right-hand corner in detail and storytelling, the person who's into modeling is looking at the model, and guess what? A picture paints 1,000 words. So while I'm down engaging one audience type out of a generic audience, the other 3 audience types are actually reviewing the image, and their words are actually being implanted on what I'm saying. So everything I do is programmed into the subliminal way the brain processes information.
So you're able to talk to multiple audiences, not only those that are visual learners, those that are analytical, those that are storytellers, all the above, and you're allowing them to interpret what you may have intentionality behind it, but you're really allowing them to interpret it into their minds as they best learn. We really focus on that in the CRE Pro course, and we build out courses specifically for that reason, because a lot of people, they do want to learn more, but maybe they don't know, maybe they don't have access to the resources. Maybe they don't have the connections into a particular field. They don't really know how to get into it any further. And we allow people to further dive into those concepts with us, either like you do on a one-on-one basis, or, I know that you have an absurd amount of content out there right now.
Yes.
You mentioned it earlier. But how would you suggest for our audience today? And remember, many of them are looking to make a change in their life. Many of the people that come to you are in the same situation. How would you recommend to them to further, get their voice out there to, as you said, just pick up a camera? What would you suggest are the first few steps to becoming Steven?
Yeah, one of the very first things people will do is they'll go to IQ. They'll go to, do I pick up a camera? How do I write a script? And what they'll do is, well, I'm not very good on video. If it's that, or I can't write, or I can't, and all of a sudden they get drilled down into the how-to. But if you think, and go quickly on this, if you think of every single thing in your life that's got heart and soul to it, so the first time you meet your significant other, it had nothing to do with, let's say, for example, it's a guy meeting a girl in a bar, for example, and you see this girl and you think she's great, or see this guy and you, whichever gender, and you walk over. Are you, when you're walking over, are you thinking, right, what do I have to do? What do I have to say? How do I have to say it? What does my house need to look like if she comes over? What do I need? You don't. You walk over and you're just, endorphins are going and you're feeling really cool about it. So my first point to your question, don't worry about picking up a camera. Pick up a phone or go and see 3 people. This is a simple thing I tell everyone to do. Go and find the 3 people who keep returning to you in your life personally or your business professionally, and write this question down and ask them exactly this question, because it's a pattern interrupt into their brain. What is my impact on your humanity? Defining humanity as the quality of being human. How in my professional engagements with you, or how in my personal, so you might go to 3 friends and say, this crazy guy in Australia was up in the middle of the night and he said to me, what is my impact on your humanity? What's the impact on me making you a better human? He just asked me to ask you that question. You will be stunned by their response, because no one ever asks it. Go to 3 professional people who keep coming back and investing with their time and their money. They're doing it for a reason, and go, what has been my impact on your humanity? The quality of you being human, the impact on your team, the impact on your work with your customers. What is the impact I've had on you and who you are as a human being? And they won't tell you what you do. They'll tell you why you are important in their life. And top tip, when you ask the question, button up, because what they're about to tell you is marketing gold.
Look, I often say that, and I think that right there is gold, to tell you the truth, Stephen. I really think it is, what is my impact on your humanity?
Your humanity. Humanity defined as the quality of being human.
Absolutely. And I just spoke to a client about this the other day, and he said, I keep dropping these deals and I'm having a really difficult time in many areas. And he said, I just don't know. I keep thinking introverted, and about myself. I try to improve myself. I'm taking courses. And I said, look, have you stopped to just 1 minute, just talk to the people who, on a real basis, who know you the best? And if you do that, if you ask them, look, I'm struggling in this area, what would you recommend to me? I think a lot of times we create a filter, particularly with those that we love, particularly with those that are business partners or that are friends. And oftentimes we create this shield because we don't want to offend them. But it's really more deleterious. It's hurting the relationship more to not be more honest and say, hey, look, I know you're really struggling with this. This is my advice. Take it if you will. But I know you very well. I work with you every day. Here's what I'd suggest doing. Do it, take it into account or not. But I know you very well. I know you're struggling with this, but you really need to ask people a lot of times, what is my effect on your humanity or being human, or what can I do to help you? Really, a lot of times it takes that question you need to ask somebody. I want to ask you a quick question, because I know that you have a very inspiring story, and I won't have you elaborate too far on it, because I know you present on it over hours at your seminars. But I would like to ask you 2 things. So first of all, you have a book that you were listening to on the way down the beach that changed your life. And I wonder if you could talk about that for a second. And sort of at the same time, you met your mentor through this book story as well. So we really encourage mentors. I'd love if you could just tell us a little bit more about those 2 things.
Yeah, back in '98, I was an insurance guy. I was selling insurance. And listen to this story. Everyone, do it quickly. I got into insurance because there was an opportunity for me to get a car. That was my ambition at 19, 20. They said that there was a guy going for 3 months, sort of long service leave, as it's called down here in Australia. And if I did his job and covered for him for 3 months, I could actually have a company car. That was my career decision at 21, 22 or whatever it was. But whilst I went through that process and I ended up doing quite well, so he went and did another job and I kept his job, so to speak. One thing happened is I read a book by Bill Gates called The Road Ahead. And it was about talking about this thing called the superhighway and the World Wide Web. And it had a word in there that changed my life. It said disintermediation, cutting out the middleman, having the ability for the customer to go directly to the supplier. And I was going to be, I was at this stage, I was 35, reading a book by the world's richest man 2 years before the millennial bug, and he was telling me he was going to replace me. So that was one of those defining moments. So I decided to go to England and became very successful in England in the context of people. I walked into England with no IT, no project management, no security clearance, no experience at all. Spent 9 months getting told to go to Greece, get drunk and chase women because you've got no chance of getting a job. But I finally got a job. The mentor business was actually when I came back after my marriage failed. I basically walked away from everything that I'd built. And when I was back in Australia, that's where I got involved with walking down the beach and listening to self-esteem, because I was trying to work out 18 months ago, I was sitting in the White House on a tour of the White House. And then 18 months later, I was packing shelves in a supermarket in my hometown because I'd lost everything. And in between, I tried to commit suicide as well. So one of the things that I did was I started looking for self-esteem, which led me to Brian Tracy, led me to Brendan Bouchard. The next thing I know, I was sitting in Santa Clara and I had a 25-minute phone conversation with a guy, a face-to-face conversation with a guy that turned into 5,000 hours on Skype every single Tuesday night between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning, wherever I was in the world. This guy mentored me until I believed that I could do what I do today. So my number one message to everyone out there, gone.
No, I was going to ask you, what do you think inspired him to continue to come to these Skype meetings? I know a lot of times our mentees in particular, if they're not paying, if they're not paying for sort of tutelage, they say, why would this big shot business guy want to spend any time with me? I'm just a nobody. And I just bounced off the hardest year of my life and things are not going well for me. And I'm trying to do everything I can, but I don't have any money to give this guy. I'm not in a position of power. How do you think, or why do you think that your mentor showed up every week on these Skype calls with you?
Well, I created 8 diaries. I went to printers and got models and templates cut out so I could draw things out. My number one message to everyone, based on your question, Zach, I had an absolute relentless commitment to his investment in me. Absolutely relentless. And it's still the same today. I did a 3-video series this week with Rachel Beck. We did an hour. We cut it into 3 9-minute videos. I was putting out 35 life lessons in 30 minutes and 50 seconds worth of videos. I was putting out a life tip at the bottom of the screen every 56 seconds. Because if you come near me, I'm going to change the way you breathe by giving you a version of yourself you never thought imaginable. My answer of why he kept coming back, he told me, I've never seen anyone with a relentless commitment to learn.
That's fantastic.
And so he kept coming back.
Great life
and
lesson
it's not
there for sure.
Yeah, he bought me cars. He flew me to New York. He paid for me. In February 2012, I was out of money. I was bankrupt. I was back in Perth, and I said to him, I've got to go get a job. And he went, no. He started sending me money. He sent me books. He bought me a car. He flew me to New York. And in return, all I did was relentlessly learn. He'd be talking to me, and I'd be building models.
Well, we have that a lot in our firm, in that if you see somebody that's really driven, you will actually not only show up to those 5,000 hours, but you will also invest in them as a person. So a lesson to be learned from Stephen DeSetti is just really show up prepared, and then really give your all. And remember to ask somebody, what is my impact on your humanity? Stephen, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in contact with you from the show?
Easiest way is to go to stephendesady.com, and all of your channels of choice are available there for you to connect with me. stephendesady.com.
We'll put that down below as well.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Hey, so Stephen, I got a question
my last
for you, buddy.
Yes,
Yeah.
My last message
question
to everyone
for you,
is,
Steven, is
yeah,
this.
you go.
How are your dance moves, my friend? Let me see it as you rock out of here. This is Steven Dezzetti. I'm Zach Racier. This is the CRE Pro Show. Let's see it, Steven.
I'm doing it, buddy. I'm doing it.
I love it. Thank you very much.
1 in the morning. Turn it on. See you later.
Turn it up. Time to go to the club. Woo!
See you guys.